What's up, everybody? Back on the Cut to the Chase Bengals Blitz. Chase Shantz, Justin Lacey. This way. I took it away from the microphone. This way. All right. Justin's back in studio and everything. We're talking the NFC title game between the Detroit Lions and San Francisco 49ers. Man, the Detroit Lions are in the title game, man. Is this 1991, 92 or what? What's going on here? This is awesome. But they play 6:30.
This is amazing.
Yeah, this is awesome, man. 6:30 on Fox. I'm going back home to watch the game with my family. My brother's coming over. I mean, this is just awesome to see. But if you guys are watching the video, like, subscribe, do all the good stuff to it. We appreciate everything going on here over on the channel. Also tune in to Running Through the Jungle, man, and doing some good stuff over there. We're all, over there collaborating and doing all good stuff on that channel. So go over there and check Justin and them out. At Brandon Harriet, Tim Lyons, good stuff going on with Running Through the Jungle. This game. So Detroit, a lot of offensive firepower. San Francisco, same thing. The Niners have more defensive firepower. The Lions, a bit younger and inconsistent. But first thoughts for Justin with this matchup.
Is Barry Sanders playing? Because that was the last time Detroit was ever in this spot. It was Barry Sanders, Yeah. And he was still the bell cow running back, basically the heartbeat and soul, single-handedly the entire team, during that Detroit Lions time. But nonetheless, all jokes aside, I'm so happy for them. I really am. Us Bengals fans, we know what that feels like. Even though they got to go on the road, they're pretty much going to be significant underdogs going on the road to San Fran. But at the end of the day, man, you still can't help tip your cap to what Dan Campbell and that Lions team has done. When I think about this game, I think more about, is the 49ers ready to show that they're ready to win it all? That's when I think about this game when I first acknowledge it. Just because how many times has San Fran been on the doorstep of going back to the Super Bowl and then finally winning it? They last went to the Super Bowl in 2019 when they lost to Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes, of course. We know that. They could have also won that game. They had a 10-point lead. Yep. But we also know that Jimmy Garoppolo had the famous missed wide open throw that could have basically sealed the damn deal, but it didn't happen. And they had a couple of turnovers, but at the end of the day, they just couldn't pull out the dub. And since then, it's just been like they've been scratching and clawing and almost getting there, but they just been falling short. They had to see their division rival LA Rams win the Super Bowl before them, and they've had better rosters, better than them. In fact, they've had their number. When you think of the Rams versus the 49ers have owned the LA Rams countless of times. And quite frankly, if you're Kyle Shanahan and company, you're just kicking yourself like, what more do we have to do to get over this hump? Earlier this season, after your third straight loss, when you lost against the Browns, the Vikings, and then the Bengals, you went on your bye week, and during that bye week, you went and made your defense better by trading for Chase Young. You already had what's his name on the defensive line interior? He's a guy that I really like.
Eric Armstead? Or my
Eric Armstead is on there, but defensive line.
Shit.
I know.
I'm sorry.
I know. It's right there on the tip of my tongue.
Wait, hold on. Javon Hargrave.
He played for the Steelers and the Eagles. Javon Hargrave. There he is.
There we go. Okay. I don't know what it was.
When I saw the 49ers, I don't know why I blanked on his name. I don't know.
Who knows?
49ers have so many names.
Hey, we're not perfect. We're not perfect, but hey, there you go.
No. And we're doing this off the dome. We don't have like a roster of guys, scheduled. But, they already have Javon Hargrave, Eric Armstead, and we obviously know about Nick Bosa, signed a big contract in the offseason, who definitely deserved the Defensive Player of the Year last year. But nonetheless, they were very suspect on defense during that time. They went and got better because they knew that they had a perfect opportunity to make themselves back to a Super Bowl contender that they originally came in the season with. So, and they played like it all the way until they played the Baltimore Ravens in their house on Monday night, and they just got manhandled. It could have been a good game. It looked like it was on that lineup to be a great game, but it just wasn't it. Detroit, I still just feel like that there's a team that they're thinking that they're a team of destiny, and I love them, and I like what they're doing, and I want them to win and win it all. I really do. I feel like that as a Bengals fan. I'm sorry to bring up Bengals talk and stuff like that. As a Bengals fan, we giving Detroit the sentimental favor because we understand what they've gone through, not to the bottom extent like 0-16 record and stuff,
Yeah.
but we understand what they've gone through as far as eliminating the playoff winning drought for so long, like they've gone through. And
Mhm.
we're happy for them. But at the end of the day, it just feels like that this is the biggest, tallest task that it might come to an end for them this weekend. Am I picking them to lose this game? That's remains to be seen later on during the show.
Yeah.
But the 49ers were not as impressive to me on their win against the Green Bay Packers, too. I thought the Packers should have really pulled off the upset. I really did.
Yep.
But again, tip the cap to the 49ers. But this is why this game tells me that just because you got this game at home and you got up and down the better roster, you still got to go out there and show that you're the team that's capable of not only just winning this game, but winning it all. I feel like that the 49ers have been slipping a little bit in that. It feels like to me that ever since they got beat by Baltimore on Monday night, I've had to look at this team a little bit differently. I don't know. Do you feel the same way?
Partially, yeah. I do feel a little bit of the same. It was like that stretch they had at the, when they lost to the Browns, and they had the 3-game losing streak. That injuries. You can put that into a thing and all that, and tee it up however you want. But yeah, I feel like I've seen them as a good team, but again, they have to get over the hump, and it's a very interesting microscope that they're under at this point since Christmas, came and went. So I do agree with you in that regard.
Awesome. I figured you would. It just felt like that. Why am I like all of a sudden leery about picking the 49ers to win it all when this was my team that I picked to win it all to begin with?
I feel
Why
it.
I feel uncomfortable about that.
I,
Maybe
and I
maybe it's because the other team's gotten better, but
It might be, and I think part of it because I think we both had the same Super Bowl prediction. The Bills fell off the thing, so like, screw the whole prediction. But man, I don't know what it is. But I'll say this though. First off, this game, both teams finished the same record and everything. The Lions. This is just so crazy to think that the Lions are in the NFC Championship game. The Niners are favored by 7 right now. The over under 51.5. Both teams have 1,000-yard rushers in David Montgomery and Christian McCaffrey. Ground. Both have receivers that had over 1,300 yards in Ayuk and Amon St. Brown. Both quarterbacks threw for over 4,000 passing yards and 30 plus touchdowns. The thing I'm looking at is why you're like questioning, I don't know why I'm questioning the Niners like this right now. I'm questioning because of the opponent they're playing. Detroit's no joke. I don't think Detroit is a joke. I know that, again, they've played some teams in the past, like, when they played the Ravens in week 7, they got killed and all this other stuff that went on. And I know they're a bit of a different team when they're on the road, but again, this is not a team that should be slept on. I'm not saying you're sleeping on them at all. Okay. Like, I don't think many people are sleeping on this Detroit team because everyone's awake and everyone's seeing, oh my God, the Lions are in the NFC Championship. But you're looking at it though, when Jared Goff is, on the spot, I mean, they are a tough team to beat because they're running the football well, establishing the line of scrimmage, and then play action. Jared Goff has some big windows to throw the football. He's delivering, guys like Josh Reynolds and I don't know, Amon St. Brown, 1,500 yards receiving. He's a mainstay in that thing. Josh Reynolds is stepping up. Jameson Williams is stepping up. There's a bunch of other guys that are just not, that are not as big of names that are really making plays. Sam Laporta last week had to have like 8 or 9 catches. I know he didn't, it wasn't for like a buck 50 or blah, blah, blah. But I mean, Sam Laporta had a huge impact. Brock Wright had a huge impact. The running backs and tight ends for Detroit pose a threat for the Niners because if they get Jahmyr Gibbs going, this game is going to be down to the wire, in my opinion. So that's a big thing going forward. But yeah, the floor is yours, Justin.
No, I absolutely agree. I mean, only thing I was going to really add to that is the running game, because as much as we love Christian McCaffrey personally, I thought he was going to, finish the deal. Again, if San Fran was going to continue their dominant ways, I felt like CMC should have really been the MVP. He was my pick, at midseason. But again, that loss against Baltimore really told us maybe more about the Ravens than the 49ers than anything. But
Yeah.
they really haven't sort of recaptured that true dominant fashion magic that I thought that they could have. They didn't look as great against the Packers, as I already mentioned. It just felt like that Jordan Love, every time he threw the ball, he was throwing the ball to wide open guys over busted coverage or just missed assignments in communication. You don't want to do that against Jared Goff. I feel like Jared Goff, he's such a rhythmic passing timing kind of quarterback. He's not going to wow you and dazzle you with any mobility or anything like that. But there was a reason why he ended up helping lead the Rams to their first initial Super Bowl under Sean McVay in 2018 is because of the quarterback style of play that he's playing currently right now. And you can't really overlook that part if you're the 49ers defense. But the rushing attack was really key and vital, that you have to stay disciplined and in your gaps if you're San Fran. We already know about Jahmyr Gibbs, but David Montgomery, he's the bell cow back that people are really kind of seeing that, like, I don't know why Chicago got rid of him. I really don't know why.
Yeah, I really don't.
But it just
either.
felt like that David Montgomery, the short down capability that he's able to provide that team, and in the goal red zone, he almost feel like he can't be stopped. Kind of like a Derrick Henry, even though he's not Derrick Henry's size or anything like that.
Yeah.
But he damn sure almost got Derrick Henry's strength. And that's what you can't really overlook. And they still have one of the better O-lines in all of football. And quite frankly, I'm not going to – the injury to Frank Ragnow, I think he's not going to look wanting to miss this game. But Frank Ragnow, his injury does concern me just a little bit because, again, if there is a defensive line that you don't want to mess around with and pretty much get hurt all the way through, it's probably the 49ers defensive line. So I'm going to be honest with that there. But, no, I absolutely agree with everything else that you said about this Lions team.
Definitely. And, big with him, with his injury, they also got to monitor that going forward. And then Jonah Jackson, the left guard, that was a big thing because he got hurt in the divisional round game against the Bucs. So we, definitely got to take a look at that throughout the week. Deebo Samuel's injury is a huge one. That's a big key to this one. It changes the entire game if Deebo is on the field or if Deebo is not. That I think is already a key in itself. And we'll get to keys here in a little bit. And I'll ask you about your keys for the Niners, in just a moment. But a lot of national talk about Brock Purdy. Every week there's talk about Brock Purdy because goalposts are being moved. Goalposts are being tightened. They're being widened. They're being every type of, alliteration, every type of metaphor, every type of whatever the heck you want to call it, okay, with Brock Purdy, because he's a system quarterback. He's just a product of the Shanahan, offense and everything, all of the labels possible. All right. Now I'm going to ask you a tough question, okay? I went on ahead and named 15 quarterbacks who I think have a pretty big impact on the game of football, okay? And this is no particular order. So I'm gonna read this list, all right? Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers, CJ Stroud, all right? Those are 6 there, okay? Brock Purdy is not better than any of those guys. Now, I want you to tell me stop when you hear a guy that Brock Purdy is better than, okay? Jalen Hurts, Matthew Stafford, Justin Herbert, Dak Prescott, Trevor Lawrence, Jared Goff, Kirk Cousins, Jordan Love, Tua Tagovailoa.
I will stop after Jordan Love.
All right. So that means in that regard, from what we're going with, Brock Purdy is slightly above average. And the thing, he's such an interesting case when it comes to quarterbacks in the National Football League because people tend to move the goalposts with them, whether it's because everybody around him's doing good. And, obviously, wins aren't a quarterback stat. To some extent, wins can be a quarterback stat. To some extent, there has to be context with all of this stuff. But I want to hear your thoughts about the entire thing with Brock Purdy and everything else, because he's had a great season. I mean, to say the least. I mean, 31 touchdowns, 11 picks, over 4,000 passing yards. He's had a fantastic season. But he's putting up the numbers. They've won, all that stuff. But just what are your thoughts on Brock Purdy overall before we get into the keys of the game?
There's two things. The number one thing is obviously he was the last pick in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Irrelevant.
Yep.
We like the storyline, but people are really just telling themselves, are you really going to insert him in the top echelon of quarterbacks? Because he was the last pick in the draft for a reason. It's similar to what I've said about Lamar Jackson and his quarterback style of play during draft season of 2018 or the combine.
Yeah.
People just kept on they just could not fathom the idea of having this type of style quarterback as a long-term investment. And credit to Lamar Jackson for continuing to defy the odds with that.
Yeah.
But Brock Purdy is in the exact same boat based on his draft status by virtue of he was the last pick in the draft. And I feel like that a lot of people are just having this angst about that, whereas like instead of looking at it, he was a diamond in the rough. They're not ready to turn him into that, which leads me into the second part that is a narrative that's working against him. And it's because of the system that he's working in, and that they feel like that while he may not be exactly like Jimmy Garoppolo, but he is Jimmy Garoppolo-like in terms of he was built around by Kyle Shanahan. He just basically just walked into Kyle Shanahan's system and then just took the keys from the reins off of Garoppolo. See, that's where you that's where you miss me. Because there was other quarterbacks that could have done the exact same thing. Sam Darnold could have done it. He's still a backup quarterback. You had Trey Lance in there. You traded him to Dallas for a reason. You lost to the Bears last year in week 1 with Trey Lance starting at quarterback for a reason. So you didn't see Brock Purdy coming. So don't sit there and talk about like how, my goodness, Brock Purdy is really good. He's done this and all this. But then you're also moving the goalposts as well when it comes to because his last pick in the draft status and he's Mr. Irrelevant. Those are the two main things that's working against Brock Purdy. And unfortunately, when how media and script writers kind of talk about quarterbacks, unfortunately, draft status does play a part of it because they tend to give a lot of leeway to people that were drafted in the first round. Let's say next year that Bryce Young finally comes to form and starts playing like a number 1 overall pick like we think he can. All he's going to do is just put him above Brock Purdy. He's almost like he's turning into Andy Dalton, that Mendoza line. Andy Dalton was that Mendoza line. If you were above Andy Dalton, you had a franchise quarterback. If you were below Andy Dalton, you did not have a franchise quarterback, or you need to start asking yourself questions. But what if you just had Andy Dalton? I feel like Brock Purdy is being looked at like that, and that's not necessarily fair to him because, as I just mentioned, I stopped him after Jordan Love. I stopped you after Jordan Love. I think Jordan Love has ascended to the point where he's passed Brock Purdy. But again, Brock Purdy only showed you for 2 seasons now. Jordan Love is his first year starting. What if Jordan Love goes and poops the bed going into next year?
There you go.
And doesn't have a great rebound year. Are we going to keep Jordan Love the same? Or are we going to make excuses like, well, he didn't have all these? Or see, that's where you keep on losing me because, again, Trey Lance was a number 3 overall pick. And he's on his second team for a reason. And he's had the exact same team that Brock Purdy has.
Yeah.
I do think that he is a game manager only. Cam Newton said this on his 4th and 1 podcast and took a lot of heat on it with a litany of quarterbacks. And it's been fun watching him kind of cook up those media narratives. I love it. But he's absolutely right. Brock Purdy is exactly a game manager quarterback. But there's no need to throw a negative connotation behind it because look where he has his team in the NFC Championship game with the chance to go back to the Super Bowl and finish the job, all as a game managing style quarterback.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
and to his credit, and I'll let you go ahead and take over after this one. To his credit, he did help lead the game-winning drive, even though they handed off to Christian McCaffrey and scored the game-winning touchdown. That was still in the hands of Brock Purdy doing what he needed to do to get them to win the game.
100%.
Floor is yours.
100%. And that's a big thing, though. And I want to, and a big thing about these quarterbacks is everyone's a game manager to some extent. You know what I'm saying? It's just that some guys have way more talent than others, and they're able to use their talents more. But to an extent, there's coaches about to manage the game. Don't lose it. That there's some guys have more talent, so that's a big thing. And before we get into keys and who wins, and we're gonna keep it really brief on keys. I actually thought of something really far back. I'm not going to say that this is anywhere close to exactly the same situation or anything like that. You know how you mentioned, everybody's talking about Brock Purdy being the last pick in the draft and stuff. There was a guy one time that was an undrafted player. He sat for a few years. He got an opportunity to become the starting quarterback of a big-time team, and he went to the playoffs, and then the following year, they were really good. They were one of the best teams in all of football. And I know the postseason success didn't go when they lost their first postseason game.
Who are you talking about?
Tony Romo.
Tony Romo.
Isn't that something, though, that we have, when Tony Romo did that, immediately, you're like, oh, Tony Romo is really good at football, so we'll just put him up in the category. But with Brock Purdy, there's not a lot of better quarterbacks. So it's a different era right now, but still, it was more accepting to be a game manager or anything like that back then than it is now. But it's just, it's crazy. I'm telling you, look it up, because Tony Romo, let's look at the comparisons really, really quick. Brock Purdy has a better running back, but Marion Barber ran for almost 1,000 yards that year. Brock Purdy and Tony Romo both had 1,300-yard receivers. They also both had great tight ends in Jason Witten and in George Kittle. And then they had a second receiver. Deebo Samuel did a lot. Patrick Creighton did a lot back then too. So the comparisons are there for it being a 16-year gap. Just go back and look at it. Keys of the game. Niners. Give me three really brief keys, a couple brief keys on how the Niners win the game.
Number one X factor is Brock Purdy. That's the number one key to the game. He cannot screw this up. In fact, there are going to be moments where he has to be able to make plays that's off scripted a bit, which I know he can. As Bengals fans, we went against him. Obviously we won that game pretty handily, but Brock Purdy was very mobile and faster than I realized. I'm like, whoa, it's tough getting this dude, trying to chase after this dude.
Yeah.
He's a lot more mobile than people give him credit for. Mm-hmm. So he does not need to screw this up. Get the ball to your best playmaker's hands. If Deebo Samuel is not on the field, then you got Brandon Ayuk, you got Jawan Jennings, you got George Kittle, as you mentioned, and we already know about CMC. But you got guys on your roster that should be able to feed you those yardage and to get you in the position to still make the proper decisions to help you win this game. So you are the X factor of your team. Yep. Also, you got the best opportunity, because as much as we like the names on Detroit's defense defense pass coverage hasn't been the best, even though they've had some turnovers here and there. I still feel like the Detroit secondary still gives up a lot of yards for my liking. Number two, the second key to the game is they got to be disciplined against the run. Mm-hmm. The 49ers front seven, they just have to be disciplined against the run. We already mentioned a lot about how Detroit can run the ball with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, and how rhythmic of a passer that Jared Goff can be. You have to be that defense to be able to knock him off his spot, because if you don't, it's going to be a long day in hell for you. So that's number one. And number three, this is going to be kind of an odd one, but Jake Moody, make your damn kicks.
Yeah. 100%.
Like, hey,
it comes down to close games. I mean, it's a big thing. Yeah.
Yeah, he's not a great kicker. I'm sorry. Going in next year, again, I know he's a rookie. I'm not trying to pick on him too much. But the 49ers are showing that they're an organization that will move off of guys quick if it's not working. They just do. Yeah. They're one of the better organizations in all of football. John Lynch is one hell of a GM, former player turned GM. I like what I've been seeing from him as a GM this time. And quite frankly, he knows that, man, if it ain't working, get it out and just get somebody else in there. Jake Moody, if it's a 50-yard field goal with a chance to win it all or win nothing, I'm not trusting Jake Moody to walk out there. Again, I know that's a weird, obvious key to the game, but there's not a lot of bad things I can say about this 49ers roster, man. I think that they're, again, before them not really recapturing that winning formula magic, I thought this is one of the complete teams in all of football. I know they had some injuries here and there, and I still feel like that they're still one of the complete teams in all of football, but they still got to show that they have to be able to win it all, and are they ready to win it all? So those are my quick three brief keys to the game. I try to be as brief as I could, but
hey, still great detail and explanation involved, and that's what I appreciate about you, Justin. So with the Lions, it's going to be very simple. It's going to be creative and efficient run game. It's going to be winning your blocks up front. The line of scrimmage is going to be a big thing on both sides of the football. That's literally what it is. Running the football, protecting Jared Goff, when it comes to play action pass, if you run the football, it's going to suck everybody up, and then you're able to make those throws down the field and have wider open windows. Defensively, they got to get home with a pass rush. I understand the Detroit Lions have done a really good job stopping the run so far. Do not break this game. But Aiden Hutchinson, he's got to get to Brock Purdy twice, at least twice. And he's got to get the football from him once. He's got to force a fumble. And the Lions have to, they got to get Brock Purdy, and they have to make his life absolute hell. And if they do that, they've got a good chance of winning this football game if their offense is over there controlling the line of scrimmage or keeping it a very close thing. Justin, who's going to win this game and then go to Super Bowl?
Sorry, Lions fans, man. I've been rocking with you guys all postseason all throughout this postseason run. And you guys have been fun to watch. And I want to pick you. And if you do win, I'm going to be standing behind you, hoping that you win the Super Bowl because I love everything what you're doing. However, I think this is where the run comes to an end for Detroit. And it just feels like that this is where the 49ers do show that they have belonged this entire time. You didn't need to write them off, even if they did come off of a few disappointing losses here and there, that this was the team. This was the right team to bet on this whole entire time. So I'm going with the Niners, but it is going to be a closer game than I realize, I feel like.
Yep.
And I think that it'll probably be a 30 to 27, 26 kind of game, kind of ball game.
I feel it.
Again, a lot of these factors do come into play here. I think Detroit is going to come ready to scrap and claw and scratch their way to a nice fight. Again, the Dan Campbell biting the kneecaps, that is going to take on its true identity now that they're in the NFC title game. And quite frankly, if you're San Fran, you better not sleep on this Lions team because they will take out a kneecap or so when it comes to like players and stuff. Even if you do get past them and you're the last one standing in terms of the conference, we might not like your chances going into the Super Bowl. So you just better be careful with the Detroit team. They're not something to mess around with. And quite frankly, they can pull off this win still. Even though I'm not picking them to win this game, I still like the Detroit Lions and what they've built for the now, for the future. But 49ers, it's clear and evident that they're still that team to beat in this conference, and they're here for a reason. They were the number one seed for a reason. So this is my team. I still feel like that they got a little bit to prove, even though I picked them to win it all. They still got a little bit to prove, but I am going to pick them to win this game.
Yeah, with the Niners being in this position so many times, I mean, they went Super Bowl in 2019. In 2020, they were all injured and didn't make the playoffs. And then the last 2 years, they've gotten really close to that point and then just didn't get over the hump. You think third time would be a charm when it comes to making it and everything. And that's what I'm leaning toward. The Niners are a better football team, top to bottom. They've got really good players. I think, they're playing at home is going to play a big dividend in this. And, in Detroit, it's been a really nice run and everything. It's going to be tough, so the right pick would be the Niners. I'm not making the damn right pick. I'm going with the Lions, man. I don't care. I'm riding hope, man. I'm riding hope.
I love
what? The Big Cat family, we're here in Cincinnati, man. We felt this run in 2021, 2022. I don't even, I think Detroit, they've got another one in them. And I think they're going to win. I think they're going to win the line of scrimmage. I know that there's guys that are injured up front and everything, but they know this is not normal to be in this game. And I think they're going to be like, you know what? Who knows when we'll be back here again? The Niners should be back most of these years, but the Lions like, hey, why not?
Why not?
You know what? They don't know what you don't know. So
why not?
That was how the Bengals kind of felt.
This is how I feel
it's
like.
Parallel.
It's so crazy how the parallel. I like that you went different in this to make it entertaining. Because again, I don't like that I'm going against Detroit in this. I am trying to think of the logical outcome here, but man, I really do agree. Too. Like, why not us? Detroit is literally living that same mantra that we dealt with in 2021. It was like y'all so
big.
Quick to write us off. I remember the takes like it was yesterday, and I even had those same exact takes. When the Bengals went on the road to Kansas City in the AFC Championship game, I was like, hey, look, I think this is where the ride comes to an end. And then at halftime, you were down 21-10. And you were thinking like, well, boys, it's been a fun season, man. We had a nice ride. We have some pretty great things to build off of. And then they came back and won the game in overtime. and it was just an impressive fleet. And then they should have won the Super Bowl. The
Yep,
Lions,
and it's
while they're not that Bengals team, and Jared Goff is not Joe Burrow, but this Lions team is playing just as good enough football this time around like the Bengals did during that period in time. So with that being said, man, I'm all for the Lions winning this game, even though I'm not picking them to win.
yeah.
But I like to be wrong. If I am wrong, I will be happy to be wrong on this because I like what the Lions are doing.
It's gonna be close, man, and I really hope that the hope keeps going on. And I'm just saying this also because I don't want my brother to be like, oh, you picked against the Lions. Like, you know. But still, I do think the Lions have a good chance, and I'm just going to ride hope with them. But, you know, it's going to be a great game. But we're going to get out of here. You know, great doing these previews and everything, and we'll do a Super Bowl preview and everything. We'll have some more guests on and everything, and Justin will be back here with us. So, you know, if you guys like this video, like, subscribe, do the whole thing. We'll see you guys.